making decisions is hard enough when we are clear and kind of with it. But have you ever made a decision and then later on you've thought, oh, or maybe it wasn't even a decision, just something you've done, and then you've thought, why did I react like that? Or, why couldn't I think clearly in that moment? Or, when you've decided that you're going to do something and you think, oh, why did I say yes when I knew I shouldn't have, or I wanted to say no, or I decided to do this where I very clearly knew, no, I wanted to do that, and yet I just always make such bad decisions. Or you're perhaps not someone who struggles to make decisions. Maybe at work you are capable and trusted and used to thinking clearly and solving problems and leading, and yet there are times where pressure builds and then something changes and things go awry, and that trustworthy, reliable person that you are gets lost. You start second guessing yourself. You rush, you overthink things. Or, and this happens to all of us, you avoid the decision altogether and you go and do something else. Or you prevaricate, you procrastinate over it again and again for hours and hours. I want to talk about why this happens. Because this is not a confidence issue. It's not I don't have confidence in my decision-making ability. It's not that you don't know how to make a decision. It's not that you are incompetent or incapable of making decisions. Sometimes you make great decisions. This is a nervous system issue. And let me tell you that once you understand this and how your nervous system impacts your ability to make decisions, you are, one, going to feel so much better about things, and two, win of wins, you are going to be able to make better decisions. Now, one of the most important things to understand is this. You do not make decisions. We do not make decisions based on logic alone. Okay, there's A and there's B, and I have to choose between the two. It is something that comes into consideration, yes, but the reality is that in our busy, rushed, full of so much to do life, you make decisions based on your state. And by state, I mean your emotional state. What is happening in your body, in your nervous system, or out of your nervous system, and how is that influencing how you think and respond? So when you are operating out of a regulated nervous system, out of an emotional state of calm or ease or peace, then decision making is quite easy because you can think clearly, you can see options, you weigh things up. There's the logic coming into play. You then respond out of that clear, rational logic thinking. But when your nervous system is under threat and you are now reacting out of panic or out of fear or anxiety, the logic brain is gone. And so your thinking becomes very narrow. Your capacity to focus on this decision is less. Your attention span is shorter, so you are being dragged away. Your brain then, when this is happening, is prioritizing safety. It is prioritizing getting you out of this situation over some kind of rational, logical strategy. And this then does not mean that you are bad at making decisions or that there's something wrong with your ability to do so. It's just biology, and it happens automatically without you having to think about it. So why does this happen? Which is important to know if we're going to think about what we can do to change what happens. So when your brain perceives pressure, so that pressure might look like a deadline, a difficult conversation perhaps, maybe it's a child having a meltdown and you're in a rush, Maybe it's a sense that you might be judged or get something wrong. All these things that create this pressure shift your brain into survival mode. So, research in neuroscience has shown us that under stress, activity increases in the amygdala. This is your threat detection system. So, your amygdala is going, ooh, we're under threat, and activity then decreases. Activity decreases in the prefrontal cortex, and that is the part of your brain that's responsible for planning, responsible for decision making, for perspective, for rationale and logic. So, quite literally, the part of your brain that you need the most, that executive functioning part of your brain, gets what I refer to as hijacked by your amygdala, by that emotional survival brain, which so desperately wants to keep you safe and is there to protect you. And so, when you are hijacked, when your prefrontal cortex is hijacked, you do things like say yes too quickly, or avoid a conversation, or you snap and then you regret it afterwards. You overanalyze things that should be super simple. You maybe feel completely stuck. You can't make a decision. So let's talk about why this is relevant to you as a driven woman who is working and running a family and used to doing well in all the things that you set your mind to. Because women like you are often operating with very high responsibility, both at work and at home, very high expectations, often put on us by ourselves, but expectations from around us too. And this internal pressure to perform, which comes from the identities that we live out, like the achiever, the one that I have lived out so long. I will be loved, I will belong if I achieve. I want to be the responsible one. I want to be the good girl. I want to be seen as these identities, these wanted identities at home and at work. And so then the stakes of a decision feel higher. You're no longer just asking yourself, okay, what is the best decision here? And, then you go with that best decision rationally and logically. Now there are all sorts of other questions going on in your brain. What if I get this wrong? What will people think if I make this decision? What does this say about me? What does it mean? We give meaning to something that could be very logical and rational. So your identity comes up under threat. So maybe it's that identity of the good girl, or the capable one, or as I say, the achiever, or the people pleaser. There are many different false identities that we all live with. And when one of these identities, or when many of these identities are under threat, then your nervous system reacts more strongly to protect it. So that means that everything, including your decision making, then becomes more reactive. You are reacting rather than choosing how you respond. So let's think about how this might look in your day-to-day life. So maybe at work you do things like saying yes to something you just don't have the capacity for. I've got to say yes because I'm the responsible one, I'm the capable one, I'm the good girl, I have to perform, I have to prove. Or maybe you avoid giving difficult feedback. You don't want to be the one who tells somebody that they have done something wrong, perhaps. I can't rock the boat. Maybe you over-prepare because you don't trust your judgment. Or you delay decisions because you want absolute certainty about the outcome, and then you will make the decision. What does this look like at home? Maybe at home, as I mentioned earlier, this happens for so many of us. You snap and then you feel guilty about it. Maybe you feel overwhelmed by really small decisions and they take you a really long time. And your brain is just feeling that pressure. Maybe you really struggle to be present. You are constantly second guessing yourself even after you've made a decision. And this keeps you from being in the moment as you go back, sitting there, playing with your child, trying to spend time with them. You're now going back, ruminating over all the decisions you have made. The common thread in all of these scenarios is that you are making decisions from a state of pressure, not from clear, rational thinking that leads to certain definite decisions that you can then move on from. So, if you have ever walked away from a conversation or a presentation or just a moment thinking, oof, that is not how I wanted to show up, or, oh, I know better than that, this is why. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's not that you don't know how to show up in the way that you want to. It's just that in that moment, your system did not have access to the part of you that does know how to show up, to that prefrontal executive adult part of your brain. So in the workplace, as you go through performance appraisals, maybe you go through leadership training and advice is poured out and it's telling you, when it comes to decision making, all you have to do is be more disciplined. All you have to do is think more logically, just plan better, manage your time better. You will feel more in control. None of these pieces of advice, none of these trainings address the real issue. You cannot outthink, you cannot out rationale a dysregulated nervous system. You cannot access the clarity, the certainty you need to make great decisions from a state of threat. So if we know that, then what's the other side of that? What does help? How can we make fabulous, certain decisions that allow us to feel peaceful about them? What actually changes the quality of your decision making? I like to think of it as building decision architecture. So it is the internal structure that allows you to make those good quality, clear, certain decisions, even under pressure, no matter what is going on around you, no matter what expectations that there are around you, you have this architecture that allows you, this structure that allows you to make certain great decisions. And the number one thing that this architecture needs to underpin it is internal capacity. And internal capacity is built through the practice of the skill of emotional equilibrium. What on earth is emotional equilibrium? I imagine you have some idea. Emotional equilibrium is the ability to stay present even when pressure hits. It's to notice what is happening internally in response to that pressure. So not being hijacked by your amygdala, but able to say, okay, something is happening and now I can get myself back to a state of neutral, of safe, of my nervous system feeling at ease so that I still have access to my prefrontal cortex, to my executive functioning. When you build the skill of emotional equilibrium, this skill, which is one of the skills of the skill set of resilience, a lot of skill going on there, but when you build this skill, it then means that you are able to first of all pause. Ooh, there's a decision I need to make here. I can pause before reacting, before making the decision out of threat. And I can make a more considered, rational decision. When you have the skill of emotional equilibrium, you trust your judgment. So then you feel less threatened by the outcome of the decision, and you then make decisions from a place of steadiness and certainty instead of from a place of urgency, from fear, from panic. And this is where resilience becomes a leadership advantage. Whether it's at home or at work, it is no longer just a coping tool. I've got to push through, I can come out of this stronger. It's actually your leadership advantage because you can make great, clear, decisive action. You can take action that leads those around you in a beautiful, strong, certain way. So then, for you as an individual, this changes the way that you show up in every area of your life. So maybe that's how you show up in meetings. Maybe it's how you handle conflict. It's how you lead at home. It's how much energy making a decision and the aftermath of the decision takes from you. And then for organizations, the skill of emotional equilibrium is critical because decision-making quality directly affects performance, team dynamics, leadership effectiveness, long-term sustainability, how much capacity the people in your team have to perform at their best over the long term. And yet, most organizations focus on strategy and systems and outputs without addressing the internal state of the people making those decisions around the strategy and the systems and the outputs. When you start focusing on the internal state of the people in your teams, so much changes. So I want to leave you with this question. You can ask yourself, what state am I making decisions from right now? Am I making decisions from a state of pressure, or am I making decisions from a state of steadiness and certainty? When you can change your focus from the question, what's the right decision, to what state am I making decisions from, then you can start to change the state, which will then allow you to know which is the right decision. So shift from what's the right decision to asking yourself, am I making this decision from pressure or from steadiness and certainty? Whatever the answer to that question will then determine the outcome of the decision more than anything else, more than the decision itself. So if you have heard what I've been saying and you've thought, oh yes, I find it so hard to make decisions because I'm doing so from a state of fear or anxiety or panic, hear this. You are not bad at making decisions. You are not too emotional. You are not vague, or I hear all sorts, women say all sorts of things to me about how they make decisions. It is just that your system has simply been operating under pressure for so long that is the way that it now operates. When you build your internal capacity, because at the moment you are so drained from being in that state of threat for so long, when you build your internal capacity, then you will start to see so many incredible changes in your life. You will become clearer. You will become more confident. Your decision making will be so much easier. You will be more present in your work, more focused at work, more present in your mothering. Better decisions do not come from more pressure. They come from more capacity. And when you make better decisions, you lead better in all areas of your life. As I have worked with women and seen them create a new decision architecture, I have witnessed deeper relationships being built, better physical health, more success at work, and just this most amazing kind of general happiness and contentment. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself and those around you to build the skill set of resilience that leads to peace, to ease, and to joy in your life.